Good evening from Vietnam, Niraj. Thanks a lot for spending your afternoon joining our Inside Sharing shows and share your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners to the show, we want to say thank you to you.
No, you're welcome, Ha. And good morning from Ireland and good evening in Vietnam. It's very grateful you're spending this evening talking to me, so thank you.
Thank you. And Niraj, have you been to my country before?
No, I've done business in China,
Uh,
in Japan, and I've spent time working in South Korea. That's as far as I've got through Asia because I spent many years working in shipping and shipping events. Obviously, China is huge in shipping with shipping ports, and Japan is very big in shipping with shipping lines. And South Korea, I worked in interactive glass media, and I love working in South Korea. But that's as far as I've been so far. I say so far because I still plan to see the rest of Asia.
wow. So now you have our invitation. You have a new friend, new family, all right? So the next time you plan to travel to Vietnam, you let them know. We will be so happy to take you guys around town, okay?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yes. And in our culture, it's very honor for our audience if we can have you to introduce a little bit about who you are and the works that you do. Would you please do that for us?
Be a pleasure. Hi, everybody. My name is Niraj. I'm a LinkedIn top voice of 2022, a TEDx speaker, and a trusted sales coach and LinkedIn coach as well. And what I do is I help people who are struggling with sales and who want to do better on LinkedIn. And I help them progress and I help them get results.
Wow. You have an amazing career journey, but then you introduce it in less than 30 seconds, and that's not enough for us to understand. So let's examine your journey all together, all right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, my journey, I mean, goodness, I grew up in a very small town
Mm.
in Northern Ireland. And when I grew up, there was no internet, no mobile phones, um, four TV channels. There was nothing to do, nothing. And so everybody left. I mean, everybody left and went to England. And what was interesting was many of the people I knew went to England and went, this is actually very difficult. We miss our families. And they all went back home again. Nearly everybody I know went back home, except me, because there was nothing really to come back home to.
Mm.
I love London. London is one of the most exciting and vibrant cities in the world. The culture, the theatre, the food, the sights. I mean, it's just, why would I leave London to go back to a small town
Mm.
where everything shuts at 5 o'clock,
Mm.
So I wanted to make something of my life in London. So I came over to be the first Indian rock star. That was my goal, to be the first Indian Bon Jovi. And I had beautiful hair down to about here. It was gorgeous, my hair. I had a six pack. I really wanted to make it. I had demo tapes because in those days it was cassette tapes.
Uh-huh.
No documents, cassette tapes. And you go to record studios with your cassette tapes. And I did that for about 2 years, but unfortunately they all rejected me and my money ran out. And it was very difficult. And I was unemployed for a long time because at the age of 19, it's very difficult to cope in life when you haven't achieved your dreams
Mm.
and you failed very badly. And a good lesson from this, it's not about failing in life. You're going to fail no matter what. So what's important is how you react to that failure.
Mm.
And at 19, I wasn't mature enough or intelligent enough to react well to it. And I really struggled with depression after that for a long time. And then finally, I got the only job I could get with no qualifications whatsoever, and that was working in sales. So that is how I ended up in sales. I had to pay the bills, I had to eat, so I got a job working in sales.
So what year was that you moved to London though?
I moved to London 1992,
1992.
and my first job 1994 in a
Ah,
publishing house in Soho, central London.
ah.
Everybody thinks it's very glamorous, Soho. It might be glamorous, but my life wasn't glamorous. I was just commuting all day, working all day, commuting all I did was work all the time. Um, but I was very lucky because I had a female boss. And through most of my career, I've had female bosses. And I was very lucky that they were very good
Mm.
and very supportive. And they encouraged me to be better than who I was. So
Mm.
you do need a bit of luck, no matter how hard you work in life.
Mm.
You need people inspiring you and encouraging you to do better.
Mm.
And I remember one day I went to my boss's office. I said, look, I don't want to cause any trouble, everybody is terrified of you. Everybody is so scared of you. But you're always really nice to me. Can I ask why? I didn't understand why she was nice to me and other people. And she goes to me, Niraj, you work very hard. You're the first person in this office in the morning. You make me a lot of money, and you don't gossip. Keep that up. And that was quite nice. And then whenever I got married, I said to her, look, I need more money. I can't support my family in this salary. And she says, okay, we're launching this. You run that as well. So then I had 2 jobs in the company. I was doing my sales work and I'm doing new launches. And then I'm running yearbooks and I'm selling awards. I'm doing conferences. Every opportunity, I said, I'll take it, because it meant I was able to earn more money. And eventually my commission was pretty much double my salary, which was great. It's what you want. And it meant I could afford a house in London and I could support my family in London. But you need a good boss to do that, because there's a lot of very bad bosses out there. Believe you me, I see them all the time. So I was lucky my first boss was very good.
And then you were so brave to come to your boss and ask why she was nice to you, and then also came back for her to ask for something that you would want to. And then instead of look out for opportunity outside, you asked for opportunity from within first. So why did you go to her and ask for something else to do to make sure that you can have a better income back then?
Yeah, whenever you're young, you don't know any better. So, I would never do that. But when you're young, you don't know the difference between right. You just do it anyway. You don't think about things as much. It's like, look at children. When children want something, they say, "Why? I want. Give me." They don't think about it. But as adults, we don't do that. When you're younger, I had bills to pay, and I needed money, and I need to have answers to things. I'm one of these people, when things take place that I don't understand, I question them. And I wanted to know, because, I just wanted to know. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I had the courage to do that, because I was very nervous. But I find that a lot of people who are in management are tough for a reason. Because the further up you go in life, in business, there's often more people trying to take advantage of you. There's often more people trying to take your job. There's often more people trying to do things that aren't appropriate to you. There's always people trying to overpower you. The higher up you go. That's one thing I realized. Having success and power isn't what people think it is. They all think it's very glamorous and you have lots of money. It's not quite that simple. It's much more complicated than that. I've learned that, of course, in the last 5 or 6 years. But when I was younger, I didn't know any better. I just wanted to earn lots of money because I figured that would give me a good life. Of course, now I realize that's not the way it is. But in your 20s, that's what you think.
Yeah. Since you mentioned about when you were earlier, let me carry to when you were very, very little also. Okay. So, Niraj, when you were very, very young, what was your dream about the future? Your future?
I wanted to be a musician because I love music. I love playing the piano. I love playing in the orchestra. I wanted to be a musician. That was all I wanted to do when I was a kid. And the problem was I spent most of my time fighting with teachers at school because teachers kept forcing me to work all the time. I'm like, this is boring. What possible good is history of Ireland ever going to do me? It's done me no good in life, by the way. None. What good is learning physics ever going to do me in life? None. All the things I learned in school have done me no good whatsoever in life. And I had a problem with school as a kid because they don't teach you about money, which is very important. They don't teach you about nutrition, which is very important. They don't teach you about mental health, which is very important. All the important things in life, nobody teaches you in school. And that was the problem I had with school because I wanted to learn and do better, but nobody was teaching me it. And all the teachers I knew at school were miserable. They hated their jobs. They were just the most unhappy people. And I'm like, why am I going to listen to you for? You're miserable. You hate your job. You yell all the time, And I got told off a lot as a child for being difficult. I wasn't difficult. I just didn't understand how things were. Now, as an adult, as a business owner, it's wonderful. I do whatever I want in life, and that's helped me become successful. But when you're younger and you're curious and you want to do things differently, instead of people embracing it and saying, good for you, all people do is criticize you, which is wrong. Everybody criticized me. Nobody took the time to really understand me and understand my challenges. And that's why now when I work with young people, I don't judge them. I
Mm.
listen to what they say and I encourage them. That's very important to do.
Wow, wow. I think that criticism for for something they don't understand is very, very, very bad, and and you were very brave to go against all art and do the things that you love to do, show the world the things that really from the authentic of you. So Niraj is very, very art, how did you give yourself the strength to continue walking along like that where everybody was go against you?
Well, I think in life, a lot of the decisions you make are based on your circumstances.
Mm.
I didn't have anybody supporting me. I didn't have anybody patting me in the back and saying, well done. And it was very difficult. And whenever you're younger and all the adults and all the teachers disagree with you, there are days you're just depressed and you do nothing. Literally, you achieve nothing because it's very hard at a young age to go against everybody else.
Mm.
And there would be times I would just give up and say, okay, fine, I'll work, and I would I'd do some geography test or do a history test, fail horribly. My father would get me tutors, and the tutors would say, he's got no attention span. He's always daydreaming. Because I was always thinking about music, because that was my first love.
Mm.
I was always thinking about other things. The last thing I ever thought about was schoolwork. When you're young, you want to be loved and adored. And with me, I wanted to have a girlfriend. That's all you care about. You don't care
Yeah.
about exams. You don't. You have to do well in your exams to keep your parents happy, because Asian parents are very demanding and very strict when it comes to education. But that doesn't really matter. All I wanted to do was to follow my dreams, have a girlfriend, be liked, be popular, and become rich. Because when you're young, you think that's what's important in life.
Mm.
Of course, it's not. But when you're young, that's what you think.
Yeah. So you wanted to become the first Indian rock star, right? Like the Indian version of Bon Jovi, and
Yeah.
then you went to London for 2 years. And tell us how how was your rock star world start for that 2 years?
It was pretty awful. I went with demo tapes. So I spent all my time in Northern Ireland recording the music, recording the demo tapes. And I went to London. I would call up these music companies like Sony and Epic, Warner Brothers, Virgin. I wanted to have meetings and they wouldn't meet me.
Oh.
Like, okay, well, I've flown from one country to the next country. You have to meet me. And they wouldn't meet me. So I just went into their offices with my demo tape, my address, handwritten letter. I had no computer, handwritten letter with my address on it saying, here's my demo tape. I'm going to be the next big thing. Don't miss out. And in all fairness, most of them replied to me. But over the next 6 months, they all replied saying, you're not what we're looking for. That was all they said. And I would call them up saying, what does that mean? How do I improve? How do I get better? And they all said, sorry, we're too busy.
Mm.
And that was difficult for me to cope because this was my dream. And everybody said to me, you're not good enough. And I didn't know what to do. And I felt too embarrassed to go back to Northern Ireland. So I just sat at home, unemployed, depressed. I would go days, sometimes weeks, not speaking to people. And again, that's why I said at the beginning how, whenever you struggle in life, how you react to that struggle is very important. And unfortunately, I didn't react very well to it at all. I just didn't. I cut myself off from the world and I became a hermit. I became a recluse. I spoke to nobody and it was very unhealthy and it wasn't good for my mental health. And I refused to come back home because I was so embarrassed. And it was pretty awful. And then one day, I was living in this tiny one-bedroom, horrible flat in London. And one day there was a knock on my door. I mean, you live in London, nobody knocks on your door and says hello to you. They don't. And it was my father.
Oh.
He flew over. He says to me, look, this is unacceptable. Sort yourself out. You can't live your life like this. This is embarrassing. He's a very respectful man, my father. And I'm living in this squalid, horrible, horrible flat. And he says, you have to get your act together and let's sort yourself out. So we looked for jobs in the newspaper. And the only jobs I could find with no degree was a sales job. And so that was it. I applied to every sales job I could over the next few months. And I went for interviews. And eventually I found a sales job in central London with that great boss I told you about. and I stayed there almost 10 years, which was
Wow.
incredible.
Wow. And then the boss told that she was nice to you, she loved you because you work hard, you came early, you make a lot of money for her, and you give the best idea it works, right? But from being the best salesperson, now to become a person who train others to become a better
Yeah.
salesperson themselves is a huge gap in between. All right,
Oh,
yes.
massive.
So Niraj, I want to know, how did you transform from being a solo salesperson to become a sales trainer and sales coach? Tell us that journey though.
Well, after my 10 years in Soho and publishing, I worked for a British newspaper called The Guardian.
Ah,
And the Guardian newspaper group is well known. I spent 5 years there doing conferences and exhibitions, and I really enjoyed that. And I started working with much bigger companies. But then I lost that job in the recession. That was quite difficult. And my wife at the time, my wife was a very smart woman, and she said, "Look, you can't be a salesperson your whole life. You have to become a manager."
mm.
And all I saw managers do was spend all day in meetings and looking stressed. Why would I want to become a manager for them? That made no sense to me whatsoever. But she pushed me, and she was very successful, so I listened to her. And I became a manager. And when you become a manager, that's when you really learn to be good at your job.
Ah,
Before then, I thought I was great. And I was very good, but I wasn't great. But when you start managing people and you start coaching people, then you really learn about your job. And I realized there was so much I didn't know.
oh,
And I discovered personal development at that stage. So I started reading books on sales. I started going to sales conferences. I started getting coached myself.
mm.
And all of a sudden, I just went to a different level
Ah,
of success, one of which I've never experienced in my life. And that was wonderful. And I started earning money that I never earned before in my life.
mm.
And then we got a bigger house, and then I started having more success. And I started winning president clubs. You know, president clubs, like the top salespeople, they send you on an all expenses paid holiday with other top salespeople and their partners. And, you know, that was lovely. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And I was really enjoying it. But the last few years of my career in London, they stopped investing in coaching.
Ah,
They stopped investing in learning. And I wasn't enjoying it. And I thought, you know what? I really want to teach other people what I've learned so they can become better. You know, people call it coaching. I call it high paid teaching. You know, that's really what it is. You're a good teacher will encourage somebody else and inspire somebody else to learn more,
mm.
do better, have success. That's the process. Taking action, making progress, achieving success. And that's what I do as a coach. And, you know, I love helping people succeed. That's what I do every single day. I work one-to-one coaching most of the time. And then usually once a week, I'll do some group work with a company. And I'll work with several members of staff on a group level. But the one-to-one coaching is where you make the biggest difference. It's where you change people's lives.
I know. Yeah. Tell me, when you become a manager, let's travel time to that period again, okay?
Yeah.
So when you became a manager and then you just realize that you start doing the real kind of works, you know your fields a lot more, and you start to invest into yourself to grow further from there. But a lot of people get into that stage, become a manager, and got stuck because they could not see that transition and in the job that needs them to step up and up the game, right? So what happened to you back then, making you realize that you really needed to change to succeed, though?
Well, what happened was all the managers at the company that I work with were very experienced,
Mm.
except me. I was a brand new manager. And I was a bit nervous thinking this is very competitive. How am I supposed to keep up with these people? So again, I got a coach.
Oh.
And when you get a coach, a really good coach, your business, you just become better, smarter, and more successful if you have a good coach.
Mm.
There's a lot of very bad coaches out there. But I got lucky. I had a good coach who was
Mm.
my boss at the time. And he said to me, if you want to be successful, every Monday morning, you have a one-to-one with your team members.
Yeah.
And you help them succeed. And I was the only boss that did that. Most bosses would sit down with a team and say, okay, what are your figures? How much money are we going to make? What is your pipeline? Every boss did that. What I did was I had one-to-one meetings individually with each person.
Mm.
I didn't say, what is your pipeline? I would say, how was your weekend? How are your family? How's life with your friends? That holiday you want to go on this year, you still want to go on that holiday? Do you want to get a car? I would talk to them about their personal lives. No other boss was doing this that I knew of. And that set me apart. And all of a sudden, I was getting loyalty with my staff, which nobody else had. And my staff wanted to do well for me because I cared for them. I spent so much time with them. It meant I had to work longer hours, but because I cared for my staff and had one-to-one meetings, that made a big difference. And the second thing I did was a lot of the managers were just managing. I was a selling manager. That means I had a sales target as well. And so that made me more valuable to the company. I didn't realize this at the time, of course, but that made me more valuable. So 2 years after I started that job, there was lots of redundancies. And lots of very good managers lost their job. Managers much smarter than me. But I kept my job because I could sell and I made money and I could manage. And that was a really valuable lesson to learn.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Tell me, because of you, the company stopped investing on the coaching, and then you feel like like it's time for you to start up, take it to the next level again. And since when you started to train people, coach people, tell us, and make a living out of that for yourselves. Since when?
Since 2018.
2008.
So I wrote a book called Everybody Works in Sales, which became a huge, because I was thinking, okay, how am I supposed to write a book that stands out? Because I have to compete with Brian Tracy, with Mark Hunter, Jeb Blunt, Jeffrey Gitomer, Anthony Iannarino, the best sales writers in the world. I can't, Zig Ziglar, how am I supposed to compete with these guys? It's impossible. There's nothing I can say, nothing that's smarter than what they've said, nothing. And so what I thought was, okay, a way for me to stand out is to tell my story. So I told my life story in this book. And in each chapter, there's a lesson to learn in sales. And by doing this, my book stood out from everybody else's. Notice my book wasn't the best. It stood out. And that was a very good lesson to learn. And my book sold thousands of copies. And I was making money thinking, yes, I'm going to be successful. The problem was you can't make a living as an author. Not unless you sell millions of copies or hundreds of thousands of copies. I only sold 5,000, which is brilliant. But you can't make a living that way. And after a few months, the money ran out. And I'm like, oh, God. And so I had to learn very quickly to run a business. And working for other people and running a business are two completely different skills. And I wasn't very good at running a business because I'm not a business person. My family are teachers and doctors. They're not business people. It was very difficult. So I would say definitely the first year in business, I really struggled a lot. And the second year, I started to have a bit of success just through grit and hard work. And the fact that I had the courage to speak in public a lot. I spoke at a lot of events. And then I ran my own events as well. So I was learning all these new skills, but it took such a long time. It took me almost 2 years to learn how to run a business. And during those 2 years, I wasn't making much money. I was losing a lot of money. And then I got divorced, went through a very painful divorce, and lockdown happened. And I'm like, oh dear, I got to start again. I went to zero. And that was very painful. But one thing I found out in life is it's during the most painful moments when you hit rock bottom, two things happen. You stay at rock bottom and you ruin your life, or you slowly get back up again. And it took me a long time, but I slowly got back up again. I slowly got back up again. I slowly got better, better, better. And then I went on to achieve great success. But it took me people don't understand how long it takes. They see success stories and think, wow, that person's lucky. No, it takes a long time. It takes years of hard work and grit and struggle and self-doubt. I wish more people realize this.
Wow. Niraj, when you were at rock bottom, right, you said there was two choices you can make. Stay there and ruin the life, or make change, right? And a lot of times when we at the rock bottom, our emotion goes with that. A lot of things will happen to us that even drag us even down in our emotions and physical feelings and everything, right? What did you talk to yourself to bring you up and start everything from scratch again.
It's very important in life when you're struggling
Mm.
to ask for help. Men are not very good at asking for help. We're not. Normally, I would hire a coach, but I had no money to hire a coach, which made it more difficult. And my mindset wasn't good because I'd been through a very painful divorce. I'd lost so much in my divorce, and all my clients had no money. And it was a very difficult position I was put in. And I called my parents for help.
Mm.
I was living in England at the time. My parents are in Northern Ireland. And they were amazing. And they said, look, you're really struggling mentally right now. You're not in a good place. Put everything you own in storage and come back home for a while.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was very embarrassed. I'm a grown man. I'm a coach. I'm a best-selling author. I've had a successful career, and now I've got to go back to live with my parents. I felt so ashamed. But looking back, it was the best thing that could have happened to me because I had a chance to live at home, have my mother's home-cooked food, which was amazing. Get hugs from my mother, talk to my father about charity work, go for walks in nature, and just rebuild my life. Because at 47 years old, it's very difficult to rebuild your life. It is. Because you're set in your ways, your face can't really change much. There's not many opportunities for 47-year-old Asian men. There really aren't in this world. And of course, we had to deal with lockdown as well. So it was a very difficult time, but I'm just lucky that I was able to come back home and rebuild. And you'll see my shelf behind me. So instead of reading one book a month, I start reading one book a week. I buy books all the time. And I started studying these books a lot. I started going for walks in nature. I started writing more in my gratitude journal. I started taking better care of my physical health. I started working on my mental health. So all these little steps I was doing. And I slowly got better, very, very slowly got better and better and better. And then once lockdown was lifted, I started online dating. And online dating is a different kind of drama. Oh my God, it was. And what happened was, because online dating was so terrible, and because I was still struggling with loneliness, I started writing about it on LinkedIn. And nobody, 2 years ago, nobody was really talking much on LinkedIn about their personal lives. And because I was talking about loneliness and vulnerability, and the difficulty of finding somebody, and the difficulty of finding work and new clients, people connected with me on a different level. And all of a sudden, I went from being a nobody to having 3,000 followers, 5,000 followers, 10,000 followers, 50. It just kept growing because people saw past my job title and they saw a real human being. That's why I always encourage people, be sincere, don't be afraid of being different, and make sure you express your voice because people need to hear your voice.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. The pandemic really promotes a lot of good things. One of the good thing is being authentic. Like authenticity is now is something that around the world we see companies leaders telling the employees and themselves to be more authentic, to be real at work. And I know it would take a long time for us to take off the different hats off our head and be oneself at work. But like your case, you start to make the movement, and the people starts to see the connections, and from there they start to see the effects of that, and they start to try to make like a little change so that they can get into there. So thanks for leading that one, and it could be another book for you to write. Remember when you first read the book, everybody works in the sales, right? And then it's all about your stories, as a salesperson, and that live example. Maybe it's a new book ideas for you to write about how you let go of off guards, or what, and then start to let the world see the.
Great idea. The book came out yesterday, but only in the UK. It'll be on Amazon.com in a few days' time. So by the time this video comes out, the book is called Business Growth: Lessons Learned from Divorce, Dating, and Falling in Love Again. So essentially, it's my story of trauma of divorce, the horrors of online dating, the joys of falling in love. And in each chapter, there's a lesson to learn in business. And what I've done is I've focused a lot on important things like soft skills. So soft skills is the importance of listening. It's emotional intelligence. It's things that people don't really talk about enough in business and sales,
Mm.
and yet they're so important. They really are.
Oh,
And so, yeah, there's a lot of lessons to learn. I'm very proud of the book, and the reviews so
beautiful.
far have been amazing. So I'm very grateful for that.
Wow, so it's gonna be launching by February of 2023.
It'll be launching middle of December 2022.
Oh, so in about like 10 days time, man. Congratulations, congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, right, I have two last questions for this conversation today. All right, and the first question is about thinking. And my wife and I, we have been going on the quest to help people to improve their ability to think, because we believe that our thinking capability these days is diminishing. So every chance we have a person like you on the show, we ask this question. So how have you been helping yourself to grow your thinking, this regards of how life hits you, good or bad? Tell us, how did you grow your thinking?
Okay, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, read 30
Read.
minutes every day before work. I don't read after work because it's exhausting. I don't
Mm.
read during the day because running a business, so many things happen. So get it done first thing in the morning. That
Mm.
way it's done with. Okay, and I do that before work every day, no matter what. Second of all, and this is the most important thing, turn this off.
Oh.
My phone is off at least 3 times a day.
Mm.
Usually twice a day is because I'm coaching. And the third time a day is because I'm writing. So I'll be writing in my gratitude journal.
Ah.
I'll be writing ideas. I'm always jotting down ideas. Warren Buffett said you should spend at least 30 minutes a day with a pen and paper in peace and quiet thinking.
Mm.
Some days nothing happens. Some days you'll have great ideas. And Warren Buffett's a billionaire, and he's a smart guy, and apparently he's a very nice guy. So when people who are very successful, who've got a very good reputation, give advice on a podcast or a book or a video, listen to them. Don't just go, oh, that was nice, and get on with your life. A lot of people do this. They read a book or watch a video and go, oh, that was nice. But you have to take action. You must take action. And I'm a person of action. So when he said that, I thought that's a brilliant idea. So every day, every afternoon, for half an hour, I'm thinking and I'm writing. Now, sometimes I'm thinking and writing, and I end up having a nap because it just happens. And I'm tired and I fall asleep. That's okay. But sometimes I'm writing, nothing much happens. Sometimes I write, I come up with good ideas. So that is really important. And the third thing is, even now, after 28 years in sales, I still work with a coach once a month to brainstorm ideas, to question me, to see, am I doing things right? Because there's so much distraction in this world. There really is.
Yeah.
There's my phone going off all day long. I get over 100 LinkedIn messages a day, 300 emails a day, text messages, WhatsApp. It's very hard to control it sometimes. So it's good to have a coach who can give you outside advice sometimes and
Beautiful.
advise you.
Beautiful. So I have it noted here. So at least read 30 minutes a day in the mornings. Then and turn up the phone, have the pens and paper, and find a quiet place so that you can start journaling and write things down, write idea down. And then the third one is to have a coach that can help you to really focus on what you need to grow and learn and do. Right. So
Yeah.
yeah. Whereas the last question used to be usually is about the future, but since we know you're going to introduce the book in about 10 days time, so congratulations in advance. And I know it's going to be another best-selling book because it's coming from the real stories, and people love real story. They don't love the data and so on, or fiction story, stories. I'm going to change the last question. Okay,
Okay.
because you mentioned one thing is very important, is from thinking to action.
Yeah.
And then earlier that you mentioned that a lot of people listen to the advice, say, "Oh, it's nice," but not a lot of them make it to the next stage, which is doing something
Sure.
about the information. And so, how did you force yourself to move from thinking onto actions, though?
Well, one of the reasons I encourage people to do so much reading is, well, Firstly, curiosity. It's
Mm.
good to be curious and learn new things. But also, people before you are more successful. I stand on the shoulder of giants. I stand on the shoulders of so many successful people who I learned from over the years.
Mm.
And if they give advice and you respect and admire that person, for me, it's just common sense to listen. It really is. It's just common sense. If they say take action, I'm like, okay, I should take action. That's the way it is.
Mm.
And because I invest very heavily in books and coaches, and they always say, take action. What are you going to do next?
Mm.
Because I don't want to struggle like everybody else. I've spent enough of my life struggling. I really have, too much of it. And every day I see people struggling.
Oh.
And the reason they struggle is usually because they're not reading the right books, they don't have the right coaches, and in many cases, they're not taking action.
Mm.
Because it is much easier to spend 1 hour at lunch on Instagram or Tinder or Facebook. Much easier to do that than it is to go for a walk or take action. It is. It's much easier to do nothing. That's why people tend to do nothing, or
Uh-huh.
they stall, or they procrastinate. But if you want success in life, you take action. Nothing is going to come to you. You have to go after things and chase them. That's just how business is. I don't know anybody. I know a lot of successful people. None of them sat there going, I'm going to wait for success to happen to me. They just didn't. They had to go out there. And because I surround myself with good people and I see these people doing well in life, I'm like, okay, what are they doing well? Well, they spend time with their families. They take good care of their health. They give generously to charity.
Oh,
They take action.
wow.
So,
Beautiful. Thank you. I told you that I have two questions to end the conversation, but is that okay if I ask for one last one?
one last one's absolutely fine, huh?
Okay. Music was your love of life since you were young, right? So and despite the challenges you got in London for 2 years, I wanted to know, are you still playing music now?
I still enjoy music
Uh,
and I go to music gigs all the time. I go to concerts a lot. I saw the Rolling Stones this year. That was a dream come true. Next year, I'm off to see Bruce Springsteen. So I really appreciate music, and I go and see a lot of bands playing in Belfast and London, and I really enjoy that. And recently, I got a record just over there. I got a record player for my 50th birthday, and that was beautiful. So I've got like Beatles LPs, Rolling Stones, Queen, Elvis, and so I still appreciate music at my age. But don't forget, my dream as a kid to be a musician wasn't just based on love of music. It was because I wanted fame and fortune and money.
ah,
And when you get to your 50s, you realize fame, fortune, and money doesn't make you happy.
mm,
Money is very important, always, but it's not the most important thing. What's the most important thing when you get to my age are the relationships you have,
yeah.
your health, and how much you give to other people. I wish I knew that 30 years ago. My life would have been so different, but I didn't know that 30 years ago. But I always say to young people who want to have fancy watches and fancy cars, look, I understand why you're thinking this, but that's not going to give you long-term happiness. It'll give you a lot of short-term happiness.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Take care of your health, have amazing relationships with people, and give to charity. And you will be amazed how much success you have in life.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing those three very important things that we need to aim in our life to achieve. You know, have a good relationship, right? And then give back to the people. And the first one, just take care of your health. Take care of our health. Really,
Yeah.
really good one. And thanks for sharing that. And Niraj, a lot of people take life for granted. There's good things around us for granted, and then by the time that they get old, they will feel regret about things that they wish that they can turn the time back, but it's not possible, right? So, your advice, if you can go to the people that they can apply it now, and the now is now for them to make change. I really appreciate that. If people want to connect with you, how would they do that?
The best way to connect with me is follow me on LinkedIn, or go to my website, everybodyworksinsales.com. I've got loads of free documents there to help you learn more about sales and LinkedIn.
Wonderful. So everybody works in sales.com. There, or follow
Perfect.
Niraj on LinkedIn, and that is That's where you can find a lot of useful information, a lot of things, great advice from him to apply into your life. So I wish you all the best with the new journey, with the new book, with the works that you're doing. You are amazing. You are, like helping people to share your advices and then help them to go to the next level. Is really, really a noble thing to doing. So please continue doing that, and I hope to see you one day in person, right? Okay.
Oh, that'd be so awesome. That would be absolutely awesome to meet in person one
Absolutely.
day in Vietnam or in London or in Ireland.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that day will come, my friend. All right. Okay.
I hope so. Thank you so much for your time, Ha.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon and say hello to your parents for us. Okay.
Well, indeed. Have a lovely evening in Vietnam.
Bye bye.